Welcome back. Welcome back. We're going to be discussing the first panel discussion of the day, adopting a system thinker mindset. And if you work in research, if you work in design, you know that all efforts are not in isolation. In fact, if you want to be a good researcher or a good designer, you have to take into consideration all the factors that are feasible in your studies and that are economical to effect with your efforts. So,
Mm.
with us, we have Bilal and Honey. Perhaps we can start off by talking a little bit about your backgrounds, and then we can define the terminology a little bit. And finally, I'd love to explore a little bit of the lived experience that shows how you've worked within the system to affect the change. Um, so, Bilal, maybe you could start us off, and then we can go to Honey, and we'll get started from there.
Okay, thank you, Joaquin. My name is Bilal, and currently I'm working as senior graph architect, focusing on how we can structure complex real-world domains into semantic models that support reasoning, search, and intelligent decision making. So, over the past years, I have been working at the intersection of data modeling ontologies and AI systems, particularly in the domain like workforce domain, HR domain, and also cultural heritage, and specifically to build an enterprise knowledge representation graph and graph-based architectures. My main interest is understanding how we can move, in fact, from traditional data centric system to knowledge centric systems, where meaning, relationship, and context become first class citizens. So, in my work, I often explore how knowledge graphs and ontologies can act as a bridge between raw data and intelligent systems, enabling capabilities like recommendations, entity resolutions, explainability, and automated reasoning. I'm especially interested in how these ideas apply to complex socio-technical systems such as workforce platforms and large-scale decision-making environment, where structure and semantic directly impact outcomes. I believe that learning is ongoing process. So each time or each day we live, it's an opportunity for us in order to learn new things and to interact with new people. And this is where I am. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bilal. Honey?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Dr. Hani Yadav. I've completed my PhD in the area of AI capability management, where we investigated that how small and medium enterprises are building AI capabilities and solutions. We have worked primarily, I have worked within the case study as a practice-based researchers with a lot of organization coming from finance, telecommunication, edtech, mental health institute, retail, and presently, I'm working as a postdoctoral researcher at SmartSip Plus, and it's a UKRI funded project where my responsibility includes the business feasibility and decision modeling for farmers, building feasible solutions and scalable solutions that impact more in valuable terms, where AI becomes the leveraging part where how this technology could be implemented to these to such systems to make it more valuable towards farmers and respective users. So yeah, that is about me, and thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to explore this topic through both of your respective lived experience. You both worked in non-trivial, very complex, dynamic systems, and it's your contributions have been across different industries. Um, I would be I would feel like I'm skipping a step if we don't define the terminology and the domain that we're going to be talking about in its more academic theoretical sense, and then you know that could be used as a bridge to get into the practical applications of what you've done. So perhaps we could start with talking about what is the system, what is it comprised of, and who does it affect.
And so I can start, I believe. So I believe system are basically the relationship that we establish between the inputs and outputs, and how what are the processes that happens from the inputs to going to the outputs, and how efficient outputs we can have, given the fact that how much optimization we can do in the processes and within our inputs. And so for so long, if we talk about social systems, if we talk about technical systems, if we talk about any system that requires certain level of outcomes and certain level of decision making, that is something that's where the inputs become more critical. So the more transparent, the more viable, the more quality enhanced inputs we have good systems where it's more effective, it's very much in good performance. And I believe that's the definition of in my understanding of system generally. And yes, the feedback loop is also one important aspect of feedback of the systems, to make sure that they are adaptable, they are changing, they are actually uh, optimizing themselves, and the outcomes are more applicable and constantly improving.
Yeah. In effect, I agree with this definition. In fact, and I want to add something here. So we can consider a system is like a collection of components that interact with each other and produce a result or the output. Okay, so it's something that that relies on input and output, and this result can't be achieved alone. So we have a structure, we have a system thinking that can conduct this system. And here the system here, so it's a structure. If we want to answer what exists, like for example entities, component is interactions. If we want to understand how do parts influence each other, as Dr. Honey said, it's also feedback loop, because how does the system change itself over time. And the last one, it's about the purpose. What is the system trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And this is something very, very important. So if we want to give, sometimes I like to give some philosophical definitions. Okay, so we can consider system that it's something that cannot be fully understood by analyzing its part in isolation, but reality, again, reality, it's not just component but also the relationship between this component.
Yeah, true.
I I guess the only thing that I would like to add is that no system is inert or perfectly existing in isolation. There
Yeah.
are complex variable factors inside and outside of it that impact and affect its function. Um, the economy grows and shrinks. Organizations, industries grow and shrink. New technologies allow new processes to take hold that
Yeah.
completely rip apart existing systems. Um, so yeah, this is always a head scratcher for me because it's interesting to see so much excitement and so much potential and so much so many areas for deeper analysis. But at the same time, it's working with sand. It's working with sand. It's working with things that are slippery, and whatever you draw on a whiteboard,
Mm.
whether it's boxes and arrows, it doesn't completely reflect the real world conditions of a system.
Yeah, true, true.
Yeah.
And to that, I would like to add that, for so long we have interpreted systems as that are more understandable and rational towards the human understanding. So we have actually, for so long, we have jotted down the more complex system into the much more simplest manner, the simplest way we can solve a problem by a simplest contribution or a relationship between inputs and outputs. And having said that, if we go in much more details, then it becomes more complex for us to understand and evaluate at the same point of time, and even to predict. And that's why, we see more complex system with high multidimensionality and collinearity. It becomes harder for the systems to predict the outcomes and to be accurate enough. And that's why certain problems remain to be unsolved, because these are very highly complex correlated inputs that we are seeing. And for many system, we have actually built a very much simpler way, so that we have certain understanding of the inputs, and we can measure the outcomes and measure the performance as well. So yes, it's very contextual also.
Yeah, two examples come to mind. just I'm gonna throw them out there. The development of a house. If you're
Yeah.
an architect, you have to design specifications that people then take to build the physical structure. But in order for you to build a structure, design a structure, you have to conform to the municipality regulatory
Yeah.
compliance, how tall it should be, how wide it should be, what is legal to produce that is structurally sound. You have to obey the forces of nature. Are you doing this in a place where it snows a lot or it rains a lot? It's
Yeah.
very dry. That determines what kind of materials you can use, what kind of construction methodologies you can use, and the manufacturing of ketchup. Right? You want to
Yeah.
make ketchup, you have to get
Yeah.
tomatoes and vinegar and water, and then you have to use industrial processes to convert all these raw ingredients into a finished product and inject it into the bottles and then make it stable and fresh so that it can be transported for safe consumption. It's a non-trivial issue. Where do you get the tomatoes?
Yeah.
How do they grow? The weather conditions. How
Yeah.
is it shipped? You know,
True. Yeah.
so many factors. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
No,
yeah.
that's the real aspect of the real world and treating it, because in the I was also new with the agriculture sector, and when I started to understand that how many factors are involved for one plant to grow and for one particular farming to be done for one particular cycle, I was actually amazed to see that how farmers are so well, trained to understand all these dimensions, that how much rain is required, what kind of crop they need to have. Now, with rising temperature, what are the new pesticides are
Hmm.
actually getting failed? What are the new weeds that are coming? So there, any system has multiple dimensions that could be correlated without even us to understand that there is a correlation. So
Yeah.
there is a difference between the causality and the correlation, where we much of the time feel very much comfortable that to understand the causality, because it seems we are as human beings, we are more bound to understand causality than correlation, I think.
Yeah, in fact, I remember something that is also a very crucial concern in this point, because sometimes we are focusing only on solving the problem. Okay,
Yeah.
but in fact, before solving the problem, we need to understand the dynamic ecosystem and all the
Yeah.
things that are embedded in this ecosystem that can help us in order solve that problem. So,
Yeah.
for example, I will give an example from domain, like for example, solving the job matching problem. Okay, here, for example, the core problem is that the job matching, but in fact, in order to solve that problem, you need to understand the dynamic ecosystem of skills,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
projects, and
Yeah.
outcome that constantly evolve. So,
Evolve.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And here, so without here, there is one important concept that if we don't rely on it, we will not build system
Yeah.
and we will not solve any problem. It's framing the system. Okay,
Yeah.
so
True.
without framing the system, you will not be able to build any system, and will not be able to to solve the problem that you have. And in this context, for example, one of the hard things that uh, 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 the that we are dealing with in our daily life is the dynamicity of things. Like for example, for people
Yeah.
profiles, freelancers are not static profiles. Okay,
Yeah.
so for example, jobs are not static descriptions. Skills are not fixed labels. Success depends on context and history.
On
And
context. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So in order to solve any problem or something, you need to understand the context, and this is something very important, because I always say something: the context is the identity for the system. Okay, so
True.
because a system without context, it's nothing. Okay, it's just something that it's like a person that you can convince quickly by different okay ideas. So if you see the idea A, he will say okay good. If you see idea
Yeah.
B, he will say okay good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. And that's also it evolves with time, so your system also need to be evolved and match the pace of actually changing the skills maybe in the market, changing the requirements of the recruiter, that maybe the requirements are also changing because the technology and skills are changing. So that
Exactly.
kind of, you cannot make static systems to understand
Yeah.
dynamic processes. You need to have dynamic systems to
Mhm.
understand dynamic processes. And that's also is a challenge for in these scenarios where the changing of skills and rapid is happening very rapidly, and it's very hard to actually make and match that particular change.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So here it becomes like that. The challenge is not searching inside system, but how the system can understand what you are searching for and about.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the interaction between, because in fact in the past the relationship between the system and, for example, the humans are, it's like consumer producer. Okay.
yeah,
But for now things are changed, and the system itself must understand the need and the requirement that are embedded in the environment where we are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just to take a quick step back, Bilal, you worked on a platform. We don't have to name it, but you worked on a platform that matched human talent with job descriptions, needs of
Yeah.
organizations that are growing, and you're saying these things that human talent and organizations are not static entities. They evolve. Their needs change. At one point, you need someone with this skills. 5 years in the future,
Yeah.
you realize those skills are outdated, or maybe you want to try a different kind of skill set at a different level of maturity. And same thing with an individual. An individual has a job, or they have work, and they produce that work, and then they're transformed. They're no longer the same person that they were before. Now they have new skills and experiences. So, how did you create this platform, or how did
Hmm.
you support the development of this platform
Hmm.
that helped to match these resources, needs versus supply and demand, consumer
Hmm.
producers, in the context of things that aren't always represented in the same words, in the same context, right? Or in the same language.
Hmm.
I could say I'm proficient in something in Spanish. That doesn't make me unqualified for something in English if I can perform the
Mhm.
function or
Yeah.
role. So,
Yeah. So in effect, one of the difficult and hard problems that we were working on is this problem, in fact, Joaquin, how we can match profiles with job descriptions in order to recommend
Mhm.
to customers good profiles. Why I'm seeing that? Because it is risky. Because if your system start to recommend to the customer bad profiles, so you will lose your position in the marketplace, and also the customer will change the platform, and he will no longer trust your platform. Okay. So and as we know, the in order to build a solid system, okay, there is a mutual interaction that should happen. So freelancers or talent should do something, and I will explain that. The platform also should do something, and let me give you an example. So sometimes you can find a profile entitled, for example, senior Python developer, okay, but if you try to analyze this profile, you will find this the last push to the GitHub, it was the last year. So okay, and how? So now we need to switch, and we need to shift from subjectivity, okay, to the objectivity. How? By relying on real metrics. For example, now it becomes crucial to include your GitHub profile on the resume, because I need to fetch and get your open source contributions in order to understand if you have the desire and the willingness to and the passion, okay, in what you are doing. So freelancers must upskilling, okay, must update, okay, their profiles by contributing in new project. So now what is the role of the platform? Role of the platform is help these freelancers to be depicted and caught by the customers by analyzing these profiles using solid algorithms, solid metrics, for example, and let me tell you that one of the things that I like in the platform, it was the badges. Okay, so if you stay inactive during a week, you will lose the badge. Okay,
Mm.
so and you will lose your position in the marketplace. Okay, so from the freelancers point of view, we need to work, we need to upskill, we need to contribute, we need to do a lot of things, and the role of the platform is using the AI in order to analyze, for example, GitHub metrics, psychological metrics, because sometimes you can catch on the resume that I have 11 years of experience in technology X. Okay, now one of the ideas based on this information, I have my recommendation system that can generate questions that are based on the 11 years of experience. So you write that, you write this information on your resume. So bear in mind that my system will generate question based on the years of experience. Okay, so
Yeah.
and then based on this AI interview, I can give you a score. Okay, that can give to this freelancer a position in the platform in order to attract customers and client to work with. So to sum up, in fact, working the relationship, in order these platforms to succeed, the freelancers must learn new things, must upskill, and must contribute in open source project, must do a lot of things, and specifically in the era of AI, it's very high, because in the era of AI, it's easy to lose your position and place in the market. Okay, it's very easy. And
Mm.
here I want to see something, Joaquin, and this is also like an idea. We need also systems that can recommend people based on soft skills and not only technical skills,
Yeah. Yeah.
because now all the system can do a lot of things technically, but for soft skills we need system that can analyze the freelancers in order to give them scores based on their soft skills: communication, interaction, co-explainability, and so on and so on. Yeah.
So these all points are very important that are just discussed. And one thing that comes up to my mind is that how transparency is also becoming like because I worked in explainability, that how explainability is very crucial in these aspects, and how the liability comes both on the platform providers and the customers to actually be transparent about this process, and to actually be transparent, so that for the candidates, maybe some candidates do not feel, yes, they this is very necessary to update their GitHub profile, but is it that crucial that the whole selection is going to be really proctored on those metrics? That is the transparency that the platforms are liable to actually be very vocal about to their customers. And that's why we are seeing that a lot of now these algorithms and these optimization, or we say these are the some optimization algorithms that we are building, that they are necessarily requiring transparency and explainability of their outcomes. Most of the explainability is coming post hoc, where we are seeing that why a particular recommendation is happening, and the model is able to give you the metrics that, okay, these are some of the focused features, that is the reason. But ad hoc explainability is now also coming into, we are progressing into building decision or deep neural networks, how much interpretable as much as possible, using methods like back propagation and integrated gradient. So yes, the explainability goes, I believe, in these situations very closely and long.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we kind of teased out of this example with the job market and the platform is that organizations serve to provide some function, some
Yeah.
utility in the broader scheme of things, because the system
Yeah.
is really a functional component of a bigger system, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's to increase the efficiency of people getting jobs, right?
Yeah.
If the platform is effective, then it brokers lower recruitment costs for
Yeah.
employers that need to complete projects or get new talent. And for people that are unemployed, it gets them to participate in the economy by being useful and being able to survive or benefit or profit. So, and then you mentioned this as well, honey, the efficiency of it. But what good is efficiency and what good is effectiveness if you're not able to trust the system that performs that function?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly. No
if it
matter
doesn't
how much the accuracy is high. Yeah.
Mhm.
if it doesn't perform according to the needs and expectations of the people using that system,
Yeah.
then it's not going to be adopted. It's not going to be used. It's not going to perform volume or fulfill its purpose, and it's
Yeah.
not going to be economically sustainable.
Um,
And more of a like it's going to create it more harm than it was actually imagined to create the value or the profit. And that's how why the organizations are now going ahead with this particular understanding of, yes, these systems are really reliable, these are very accurate and high accuracy system that we are seeing. But accuracy doesn't go along with the explainability or with the, these attributes. So accuracy is one thing. Now the organizations have understood that, it's not only the accuracy metric that we need to check upon. We need to look upon other metrics as well when we are talking about
yeah,
putting these systems and these algorithms into scalable manner and putting it especially upfront towards their employees or their customers.
yeah, yeah. I want to add, in fact, something here, Annie, because what you said pushed me to remember something very important. So if we want, in fact, to project, okay, the philosophy, okay, behind these platforms, okay, and the relationship between these platforms and the system, uh, because behind the scene there is something very important that we need to know. For example, when we say Joaquin has skills XYZ,
Mm.
what does that mean behind the scene? It means in the marketplace, skills become who you are.
Yeah,
Okay. And then what are the projects that Joaquin works on? So in this context, the project become what defines you. Okay.
yeah,
And then
true.
what Dr. Hani said and mentioned, it's about the proof of the identity, how I can
Yeah,
trust you. Okay.
yeah,
So and here we can infer that we can infer an important psychological effect, that is, people start adapting their identity to what
yeah,
is visible and rewarded in the system. So
yeah.
so the system doesn't just describe freelancers and profiles, but it actively shapes their professional identity.
Professions,
So
yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
exactly. And this is in fact what also our student and junior people should understand. So if you are a student, for example, you need to think about yourself as a product. Okay. After 3 years or 5 years, this product should be included in the marketplace. Okay.
yeah,
So the question, how this product can attract people. So in effect, I always say that to also my student. I said, imagine if you want to build startup, you are startup.
yeah,
you
yeah,
are you are startup.
yeah,
Start
yeah,
from your manage yourself. So you are
yeah,
startup.
yeah,
So show me
yeah,
how you can manage this startup. Show me how you can attract customers in order to work with you.
yeah,
So
true.
yeah, so you are startup. So you are a system, and behind this startup there is a system that can shape you, that can
Yeah,
shape, sorry, your identity and the way how you are interacting with the environment. Yeah.
yeah. And one other aspect of this particular, in addition to Bilal, what said that the students and the particularly the human resource that are coming into the market and who are going to be after 4 years or after 5 years of their graduations or post graduations. I from coming from the more research background and coming from more of the academic understanding, I also believe that in the coming world, skills are really important. Yes, you have to be very agile towards learning new skills, but your problem solving capacity is something which will
Wow,
going, which
exactly.
which is will be the core towards how you will be differentiated from the other particular candidates, because it's the approach. So it's the approach that you want to follow to solve a problem, rather than one particular algorithm or solution that you are going to end up with. So that is also one thing which is going to be very counterintuitive in the coming years, because now with the AI, most of the repetitive tasks, most of the tasks that do not requires a lot of problem solving are going to be anyways automated, and anyways we are going to see that those business processes will be actually replaced by a lot of systems. So we see now that when we go to any retail shop, let's say when I go to Tesco, and other I go to Mark and Spencer. So I saw that the whole line of transactional human resources, that first we used to first go, and but there will be a person who used to carry and do the all the billing, that are all replaced by now machines, and we have now machines to do so. So we have already started building those intelligent machines wherever the repetitive tasks are happening, and wherever there is very less of problem solving and very more of actually doing something which is more predictable and repetitive. So I believe in the coming world, students need to understand more problem solving and how they approach to solve a problem, how much, and they used to solve complex problems by themselves to make them their flexibility to actually understand from different dimensions. Because as mentioned by Bilal, that regarding the hiring tool, it's not only about that how you are building an algorithm to optimize a resume to be scored high. It is also about to understand what are the skills, how are you going to actually put the metrics, what are the scoring that you need to give upon, what are the weights, how much is the context is relevant to that particular algorithm. So that's just something which requires a lot of brainstorming, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, yeah. In effect, I totally agree with you, Dr. Hani. And in fact, uh, I remember something. It's like uh, our in the next and in the coming days, okay, and years, of course, the goal of the goal or the aim or the scope, okay, that student, okay, should achieve, it's different to the one that we were working on in the past. And I can give an example here, specifically in the era of AI. So in the past, for example, our goal was like finding information, searching
Yeah,
information, okay. And now the problem is accessing the information or accessing
it's
profiles.
really
It's
good. Yeah.
really good. So how I can verify and how I
Yeah.
can evaluate. So it's the problem. It's like we need a fact checking system. Okay,
Yeah.
that can help us in order to solve like this problem, because I think, because when we talk about profiles or about people, or it's very very important to understand the psychological background
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
psychological aspect of the problem.
Yeah.
Why? Because why this psychological aspect, it's very important, because without understanding the behavior or without predicting, okay, the behavior of these
Yeah.
people, it's very hard, okay, to trust them, okay.
To trust them. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can't trust, for example, your engineers, that will cause another problem, that is
Yeah.
about the visibility bias, okay. We have a
Yes. Yes.
visibility bias, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this is something, in fact, very dangerous, that we need to be aware of, okay. In fact, I'm upset, to be honest. Why I'm upset? Because I can see people, for example, or student that come to you and say, oh, I built, for example, 10 agents, or I built that. But
Mm.
automatically, after analyzing, for example, source code, you can observe that the source code excel their understandability. And if and the right, okay, thing, and the right critics that we need to see in this in this situation. So you if I compare you with this code, so you are not, you are stupid. Okay. So
Yeah.
because what you are claiming you are building, it's something that is excel, okay, and perform very well compared to what you have. So just align your
Mm.
understanding. If you
Yeah.
want to use AI to evolve, just align your understanding with AI or excel it, okay,
Yeah.
by
True.
asking a good questions. Because if you give the space to the AI to excel you, you will face you will face something that is very very dangerous. It's about I am good, I am strong
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
I can do that. But if suddenly OpenAI decided to stop
Yeah.
all the services, you will face the reality.
Yeah. 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 True. True.
It's a difficult problem to think through and solve and be a part of because it's always been an interdependent relationship between society, educational institutions, and industry. Um, and the notion is that if you go to school or if you reach a certain level of verification, third party verification from an academic institution, you are then qualified to go into industry, and industry is generating new solutions that may disrupt or improve the quality of life for people in society. But if one part is disrupted too quickly and the other aspects do not accommodate to that rate of change, then how are you able to adapt and adjust or balance in equilibrium that trifecta?
Yeah.
Um, you guys have mentioned some interesting things. How do you verify now in the age where you can fabricate anything that make it seem
Yeah.
seemingly
True.
convincing? How do you verify that something is truthful or performant? How do you verify a student is capable of fulfilling the expectations of a job? Do they need to know how to code, or do they need to know how to develop the requirement specifications to create software? If the machine can code
Mm.
to a sufficient degree, who cares if they can't code?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not at a level where that's presently truthful. I believe that if you're going to do a task, you should have intimate knowledge and competencies before you begin to automate, because otherwise you won't know what good is. But
Yeah. True.
um, I don't know. This is like a spaghetti. This is like it's
We can't deny another thing, Joaquin, and let us touch, for example, the advantages now. Okay, so here I want to mention something. People try to say AI will replace us, AI will do that, AI will do this. Okay, but there is an important thing that I observed. Okay, when I was looking into the last statistics about people that they are building startups. Okay, so I reached out to this conclusion: the era of the AI is the era of independency in order to build your own product. Okay, so it's the era that can encourage you to build your product. That just you need to be smart. Okay, and in the statistics, I found that a lot of startups are solo startups. Okay, solo startups, which means just you need to understand how you can use and exploit, okay, this system in order to put yourself on the map. Okay, and this is something that is said by the GitHub CEO in one of the event. He said that now you can dream about the idea in Saturday and you can implement it on Monday. Okay,
Yeah.
just but you need to be careful, as I said, and as you mentioned also, Joaquin and Dr. Hani. We need to ensure, okay, that the thing that we are building, okay, will not beat us in a way that can show us like stupid guys, okay, or
Yeah.
people. So and this is the main important point. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I believe that, when students are using it and when we have opened this Pandora of, tools to them where they can just build an app in a quick 5 minutes and where they can write a research into using LLMs and where they can do a lot of things. But in my experience, I have seen that, you know, it's good that you know how to use these tools. It's really good. It is going to increase your productivity, is going to increase your brainstorming and how you are evolving in your career. But if you rely and you actually make the AI the intelligence one, and you become so dependent upon this tool, then it is going to show into one or the other interviews or one of the other progression in your life that you are going to have. That is for sure. Because when you rely too much on this technology, it just consumes your thought as well. You become biased towards
Yeah,
what this technology is telling. It's not about how you are using it. It's like that platform is using you
yeah,
in altogether.
yeah,
So, and that
exactly.
is going to also compromise your ability to grow in your career,
Yeah,
in whatever career, be it coding, be it software designs, be it creative jobs, be it research, be it product marketing, any aspect of you. And you go and talk to industry experts, and some of the industry experts who are currently interviewing students, and they could easily identify the students that show the caliber. Those students also use these LLMs and tools. It's not about the usage of them, it's about the right usage of them, that how you are using it. Is it
exactly.
you are using it to improve your productivity
Yeah,
and efficiency, or you are just using it to that tool to tell you that okay, what is right or what is wrong? Then your intelligence and caliber is not needed.
yeah,
That's part of the feedback loop. If you're too tightly wound
Yeah.
with a feedback loop or overly reliant on a functional process, it's going to ultimately create a big weight on how that processes inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
Right? Task comes in, I have to reason as an individual, how do I solve this
Yeah.
problem? And I'm always gleaning on AI. Is this okay? Am I doing good?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this the
Yeah.
right way? What do you think? You're surrendering your agency and
Yeah.
individual thought to a foreign entity, whether it's another person or the
Yeah.
idea of an intelligent, whatever.
Tool. Yeah.
Honey, you worked in the agricultural sector and you've also put a huge emphasis on explainable AI. I correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the aspects of enabling explainable AI in the agricultural sector is not just to provide the data in a way that people can understand and reason through it, but it's also to kind of educate and elevate how people can make trade-off decisions based on that knowledge.
Yeah, that is, and that's very critical in context of agriculture, because in agriculture we are relying towards a huge population of farmers. Now, these farmers vary socioeconomically into different regions. So, if you talk about farmers in UK, in Europe, in Bangladesh, and India, the variation is huge. And if we are trying to design systems that are going to aid the farming practices, for example, if you are trying to, there was one very interesting example that, a machine learning algorithm was designed to identify the harmful weeds that the autonomous vehicles need to destroy while, weeding it. But how are we deciding that what are the harmful weeds? Because it varies across the region. In Bangladesh, in the potato farming, the weeds variety and the harmful weed variety would be very different as compared to India. So, explainability comes into picture where you are taking high stake decisions, and that is going to leave a profound impact. So explainability is must. I think that every problem I have investigated, be it customer complaint classification problems, be it decision support tools, be it inclusive AI. So in all these problems, and be it human and AI, in the loop, explainability was always been that one foremost component to actually measure any further, or to actually put forward any algorithm from a valuable and from a more social context. Because that's where that if you are not able to explain and you are highly automating some task, it's very okay if you are generally automating some few tasks. That's not where the explainability become relevant. But if you're highly automating tasks that are reducing manual labor hugely, then that means that you are decreasing the manual intervention. That also means that you are decreasing the human supervision. So then the explainability becomes imperative, that, do we have the right measures, or are we teaching the algorithm the right steps to take? Because that's something that which is very important. So in agriculture, we are seeing huge application of AI and explainable AI specifically, because that's how the farmers' interaction with the whole farming processes are now changing.
Yeah.
Last question. We have like 5 minutes. We can go over just a little bit, but who determines what makes a system usable and useful?
Please, please, if you can take this question. All right.
in, i- i-
Accountability, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, accountability, of course, uh, and also the rate of how people interact with this system, okay, and how people see this system, okay, because in order to build successful system, you need a set of and to measure this if this system is successful or no, there are a set of metrics that you need to rely on in order to do your analysis. So and one of the best, okay, and good metrics is how people interact, okay, with the system. Does the system, for example, answer or solve the problem that people have? Does the system cover the requirement that people have? So in effect, it's very hard to answer this question without a good context, okay, and without a good requirement, because in fact, in order to build a good or successful system, you need to see this system used by people in our daily life, like now. So for example, and this is also, I can contradict myself here, to be honest. If I give the AI as an example, okay. So a lot of people use AI, okay, currently, but that it doesn't mean that, okay, all people find what they want, okay, within this AI system. So as I said, in order to answer this question, accountability, of course, it's very important, but the context and the problems that system cover also should be considered like one of the main important factors.
And I believe my approach will be that I come from a very academic perspective. So, who decides the system is useful or if the system is working? I've always followed, I think, David Aker or Peter F. Drucker, that customers are, or be it in your users, be it in your patients, this is the customer centricity is the usability parameter. So customers decides,
Yeah,
or the users decides, that whether your
yeah,
system is usable, or it is working, or whether it is rightly designed. So it's always the customers that are always
yeah, of
the
course.
should be the core of any organization, that when we are designing something, we have to think from the users and customers perspective.
I love Peter Drucker, and
Yeah.
I don't come from
he
an
he
academic
he
background.
just foreseed, I think, for 30 years back, that what is going to happen, and all his concepts are always applied to all the changes in technology that we are seeing.
There was a book that he wrote
Yeah, yeah,
on case studies, and he gave you ethical and trade-off decisions from a managerial standpoint. If you are in control of an organization, do you go for this or do you go for that?
yeah,
And that makes you expose your value system,
yeah,
orient
always.
the system towards what are the incentives, what are the reward and
Yeah,
punishments. Do you want
yeah,
to grow? Do you want to shrink? Increase quality, increase customer satisfaction. There's no right answer. There's no.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
true.
no right answer. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for providing such rich, lavish responses and contextualizing this topic. I wish you both a great rest of your day and For everybody that's attending the event now or in the recording, stay tuned. We're gonna come back with more. So
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It was
Thank
nice.
you.
Great meeting
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you.